Welcome to Inside Bitcoin. All research in this episode is conducted by Mo and the Moestradamos Research Team. We are diving deep today, and we're really laser-focused on some of the most consequential developments we've seen reshape the Bitcoin ecosystem, specifically in just the last 2 or 3 months. And, we often talk about Bitcoin scaling, but this deep dive, it isn't really about speed or transaction fees.
No, not at all.
This is about a radical, almost fundamental shift in the definition of value itself.
Right.
How assets are conceptualized, how they're created, how they're valued, and critically, how they're moved.
It's so true. If you've been watching the space, what you've seen is it's far more than just some incremental software updates.
Yeah.
It signals a complete conceptual pivot. I mean, for the last couple of years, the focus has been on, arbitrary token creation.
Sure. Mint a token, give it a ticker.
Exactly. Someone just decides to mint a bunch of units, gives them a catchy name, and tries to build a community around it. We are now pivoting away from that model.
Toward what, exactly?
Toward a model that's focused on discovering inherent value, something that, already exists, hidden within the immutable blockchain data itself.
And what's so fascinating to me is how these new developments are creating this kind of gravitational pull. They're unifying concepts that I think for a while felt a bit disconnected.
You're talking about things like ordinals, Bitmap.
Exactly. Ordinals, the burgeoning Bitmap land claims, and what we're calling the theoretical underpinning for it all, digital matter theory, or DMT.
And our mission for you today is pretty straightforward. We want you to grasp these 3 pivotal shifts that are really defining this new landscape.
Okay.
We're talking about 1, a practical leap in cross-chain interoperability. 2, a creative evolution that's turning block data into art. And 3, the theoretical reframing that discovery aspect, which underpins everything. These 3 pillars are actively reshaping incentives for everyone.
Endorsing everyone from, builders to miners?
Builders, inscribers, miners, yeah. Forcing them to think differently about where value truly resides.
Okay, let's unpack that practical shift first, because I think if you're holding any kind of BRC20 style asset, this changes the utility equation for you, immediately.
It really does. We're talking about the major news from November 1st, 2025.
Right.
The pivotal development involving Beyond Protocol and its cross-chain integration of sats.
That's right. So Beyond Protocol, they operate a Bitcoin native layer 1 solution, and they officially announced support for the SATS token.
And just as a quick reminder, SATS is a BRC20 style token representing 1 Satoshi, the smallest unit of Bitcoin.
And what this integration actually means, for the very first time, is that users can swap sats of Bitcoin native token across multiple fundamentally different blockchains.
Yeah, we're talking about moving sats between the Bitcoin ecosystem and, say, Ethereum or Solana.
And this is where the scale of the change really hits you, right?
It is. By enabling this movement, the asset gains access to these existing massive cross-chain liquidity pools.
What kind of numbers are we talking?
Our source data mentions this opens the door to access pools totaling, get this,
No.
more than $1 trillion in potential liquidity.
Wow.
That is a massive injection of economic opportunity into the Bitcoin asset space.
That number, $1 trillion, it's hard to even wrap your head around, and it definitely feels like the headline grabber.
Sure.
But let's be critical here for a second. We've had wrap Bitcoin for years. So what makes this Beyond Protocol development so different? Why is this being called the first true interoperability layer for a Bitcoin native token?
That's the right question to be asking.
And what are the trade-offs, in security or trust models that allow this to happen?
The key differentiator here is that Wrapped Bitcoin, WBTC, it often relies on a centralized custodian.
Right, a single point of failure.
Or a very specific multi-sig arrangement. This integration, because it's being built by a Bitcoin native L1, it aims to reduce those external trust assumptions you need to confirm the state of the asset on Bitcoin.
So it's more trust minimized.
Exactly. It's challenging that old perception that these ordinal assets have to stay siloed and immutable only within the Bitcoin layer 1.
So practically speaking, the asset itself is still native to Bitcoin, but this L1 acts as a sort of an incredibly secure bridge. It uses cryptographic proofs to verify the locking and unlocking of those sats, which allows them to participate in DeFi markets on chains like Ethereum and Solana.
Precisely. It's an embrace of cross-ecosystem utility. It says, look, we respect the immutability of the Bitcoin layer, but we're not going to let that restrict the functionality of the tokens issued there.
And that has to force builders to think differently.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
If you're designing an ordinals-based asset now, you can't just assume your users only exist in the Bitcoin environment.
You have to think bigger from day one.
You have to design the inscription's data and functionality with potential use on other chains in mind, right from the start.
And this brings us right back to our conceptual framework, to digital matter theory. How does something as, practical as bridging sats across chains increase the discoverability and the value of DMT assets?
Well, if you connect this to the bigger picture, the more utility we give to the underlying data, which is what DMT is all about, the more valuable that data becomes.
Yeah.
Remember, DMT assets rely on discovering immutable, inherent patterns within the block data.
Right, the hidden gems.
So if a specific block or a specific pattern is deemed intrinsically valuable, say it represents a unique digital element, the ability to move the tokenized version of that discovery, the NAT, across $1 trillion of liquidity.
That dramatically increases its practical value.
Exactly. It takes that inherent value and gives it external, tangible liquidity. It turns theoretical value into immediate, actionable utility.
It encourages Bitmap and ordinals builders not just to create, but to discover, and then to design the inscriptions with this kind of cross-chain utility baked right in.
It makes the discovery worthwhile, absolutely. It signals a paradigm shift. Bitcoin assets are no longer just, digital collectibles that live in a vault.
They're becoming active building blocks.
In the broader digital economy, yeah.
That's a fascinating synthesis. So if the first shift was that practical utility, let's move smoothly to the second pillar, the creative evolution. And this brings us squarely into the Bitmap ecosystem, which, as we know, has been this primary layer for claiming land on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yes, and the pivotal development here is the Atlas Hex launch. This was released by Ordrops in December of 2025.
And this wasn't just another project drop.
No, it was a crucial extension that fundamentally changed what a Bitmap parcel even is.
We've talked about Bitmap as being a static land claim, right? You claim ownership over a specific block number, and that's your digital parcel. But Atlas Hex introduced something new.
Customized generative art applied directly to those parcels. And the launch itself was limited. A fixed supply of only 4,096 inscriptions were released, which maintains that scarcity.
The truly revolutionary detail, though, which is where this creative shift comes in, is the customization.
Yes. Users weren't just getting some pre-rendered image. They were able to actually personalize the Atlas design. They could select unique color themes, visual parameters.
And here's the key technical piece. Each of these personalized, unique inscriptions was then minted directly on-chain using the ordinals protocol.
Right.
Wait, I want to drill down on that mechanism.
Right.
If I, as a user, select a color theme, how is that customization maintained immutably? Doesn't generative art usually rely on, off-chain code or metadata pointed to some external file?
That's a great technical challenge to bring up.
How is this truly on-chain?
This moves beyond just referencing a static file. The actual inscription holds the parameters, the user's chosen color scheme, the aesthetic rules.
Okay.
And these parameters are tethered to the unique block data of the Bitmap parcel itself. The resulting visual is derived from the combination of the block's inherent data and the user's inscribed choices. And because that input data is small and fully contained within the inscription, the resulting artwork, while customized, is permanently and immutably tied to the Bitcoin chain.
So Bitmap is evolving. It's going from a static title deed to a living, customized canvas.
That's a perfect way to put it.
You own the block,
Yeah.
and now you can permanently inscribe an aesthetic expression of that block that is both personalized and unchangeable. That's a novel concept for on-chain art.
It completely shifts the value proposition for Bitmap land. Absolutely. It enhances the Bitmap metaverse by giving landowners not just ownership, but personalized artistic expression that's rooted in a specific block.
And if we swim back to the conceptual side, this provides fascinating support for the whole DMT narrative.
It does. This art isn't arbitrary. Its permanence and its context are rooted in two things: the non-arbitrary block parcel data and the scarcity of the Atlas Hex project itself.
Right.
It reinforces this idea that value emerges from the structural patterns and the constraints of the data, not just from, random minting.
It feels like a perfect template for the future, doesn't it? It shows artists and builders that the future of value creation might lie in combining personalization with these fixed, non-arbitrary constraints.
It's an elegant solution. It honors the ethos of the Bitcoin chain immutability, scarcity, while allowing for this high-level creativity. It definitely signals to the community that incentives are shifting, these purely arbitrary PFP drops. They may start to lose ground to projects that find unique ways to tie their aesthetics or their utility back to inherent on-chain structures.
Okay, that covers the practical shift with interoperability and the creative shift with Bitmap art. Now we reach the intellectual foundation that unites these.
The conceptual shift.
The conceptual shift involving digital matter theory and non-arbitrary tokens, or NOTs. This movement really consolidated and gained serious community acceptance in late November, December of 2025.
This is perhaps the most fundamental shift we've seen because it's not a product launch. It's a philosophical framework.
Right, it's a way of thinking.
It's the consolidation and this growing acceptance across the entire Ordinals and Bitcoin community that we need a unified theory for valuation. A theory that links these disparate projects like Bitmap and Ordinals under one non-arbitrary roof.
So let's try to define these key concepts in a way that truly sticks with you, the listener. We've established that DMT, digital matter theory, it posits that digital substances, let's call them digital raw materials or elemental patterns, they already exist within the Bitcoin block data. They're just waiting there, like minerals in the earth.
That's a good analogy. Think of the Bitcoin blockchain not just as a ledger, but as a giant, immutable geological survey. The resources are there, but you need the right tools to find them.
And those resources are the digital matter.
They are. They might be specific data signatures, sequence patterns, or timing relationships that are just highly unique and statistically improbable.
And non-arbitrary tokens, NATs, they provide the framework to tokenize these discoveries. They're like the deed or the license you mint when you successfully identify and claim a piece of that inherent digital matter.
Exactly. And the core idea here, which is so profound that many commentators are calling it potentially Bitcoin's most important evolution since Ordinals first launched.
That's a big statement.
It is. The idea is that the community is reframing value as something to be discovered through research and algorithms, not something to be arbitrarily created through a simple mass issuance event.
If that's true, it fundamentally changes the incentive structure for everyone building in this space.
Yeah.
But if the reward shifts from volume to discovery, doesn't that raise the barrier to entry quite a bit?
How so?
It would seem to favor those with the most sophisticated algorithms, the most computing power, potentially making asset creation less decentralized. How do we square DMT with the decentralized ethos of Bitcoin?
That's a critical question, and it speaks to the necessary maturity of the ecosystem. The theory recognizes that sophisticated tools are required for discovery, much like advanced seismology is required for finding oil. However, the discovery framework itself can be designed to be open source. The act of discovery might be complex, but the verification and the tokenization through NAT must remain permissionless and transparent.
I see.
The challenge is ensuring the algorithms themselves become public goods, rewarding ingenuity but not hoarding it.
So the paradigm fundamentally alters incentive structures. It rewards miners, inscribers, and builders who dedicate time and resources to identifying these meaningful, inherent data patterns.
They're being rewarded for qualitative research, not just quantitative transaction throughput.
Right.
And that provides the intellectual backbone we needed. It's the theoretical bridge that links Bitmap, NAT, and Ordinals under one unified framework of non-arbitrary value creation.
And before DMT gained this traction, a Bitmap parcel was valuable because it was, say, block 780,000. It was valuable because of its position.
Yes, but now, under this framework, that same Bitmap land parcel will eventually be valued not just on its height, but on the potential for embedded, discoverable digital matter patterns within that block's structure.
That makes the Bitmap art we discussed earlier even more meaningful. If my Atlas hex art is tied to a block that is later found to contain a rare piece of digital matter,
the value proposition of that aesthetic choice suddenly explodes. It roots art in scientific discovery. It creates a layered system of value.
Okay, so what are the layers?
First, the positional value, that's Bitmap. Second, the artistic value, that's Atlas Hex. And third, the intrinsic data value from DMT. All of it reinforces the permanence and the uniqueness of the asset.
That's why this consolidation of theory is so transformative. It gives everyone a roadmap for building non-arbitrary durable assets.
Exactly.
Okay, let's try to synthesize these three movements we've seen in such rapid succession. We have the practical expansion via interoperability, connecting Bitcoin assets to trillion-dollar liquidity pools, demanding utility. We have the creative expression via customization in the Bitmap ecosystem, turning static data into a living, personalized canvas.
Right.
And we have the theoretical foundation provided by DMT and NAT, giving everything a shared, data-driven purpose.
And the convergence of these practical applications with a refined, deep theory of value discovery, this radical shift from arbitrary creation to inherent discovery, that is the signal that the Bitcoin asset landscape is achieving genuine maturity.
It's moving beyond simple speculation.
And into the realm of data archaeology and sophisticated building.
It's a complete reimagining of what the Bitcoin chain is even capable of supporting. And that's why these three shifts are so critical for you to understand right now.
Indeed. And it forces us to ask a difficult question about what comes next.
Go on.
If the ultimate long-term value in the Bitcoin ecosystem shifts decisively from arbitrary issuance, just printing a name, to the rigorous discovery of inherent data patterns, what fate awaits the BRC-20 and earlier ordinal assets that were minted purely based on timing or arbitrary choice, rather than being rooted in intrinsic block structure or data significance?
That is something to mull over.
It is, as you watch this space evolve.
If you want to continue the conversation and stay updated on Bitcoin and the broader Bitcoin ecosystem, check out the Discord link in the description or on the channel, where Mo will be sharing ongoing research, insights, and updates. We'll see you next time on Inside Bitcoin.